Hello, hello, my love. I hope that you are doing well today. My name is Victoria Albina, and I am really excited to be here with you all today. If you can see and hear me, will you give me a thumbs up? I am using a new software, and I'm excited to see if it's working. Hello, Davy B. Davy, can you see and hear me? Give me that thumbs up. All right, I'm getting a thumbs up. Okay, great. We are good to go. Hello, hello, my loves. Happy Friday to you in the midst of this quarantine. So, I wanted to talk today about negative feelings. So, if you know my work, you know that I don't believe that any feelings are negative. I believe that a lot of feelings can be super duper challenging and exhausting to feel in your body, can take a lot of energy and time and attention to really process through and to be able to create the capacity to sit with the discomfort of. Right? So feeling your feelings can be incredibly uncomfortable at first, particularly if it's not something that you grew up doing, if it's something that's new to you, if you've hit 25 or 30 or 50 years old and you've come to realize that you haven't been feeling your feelings. It can be kind of a shock, and it's a thing that I hear a lot from my life coaching clients, from the folks who come to me to work on issues like codependency, perfectionism, self-doubt, being hypercritical, judging themselves. All of these thought habits can lead us to really de-identify with our feelings and to not be able to feel them in our bodies. And the first thing I teach above all is that it's vital and valuable and just so endlessly necessary to feel your feelings in your body. Because if you're not somatically connected, then you are far from your intuition. Right? You're just running on those old scripts. Because I'm from the 90s, I think of them as cassette tapes. And I picture my monkey mind literally okay, anyone else who's Gen X or older, do you remember your favorite song would come on the radio and you would hurriedly put a blank tape in and you'd try to hit record and then you'd try to transfer it to another tape, hitting record and play. I picture my monkey mind, right? That part of my mind that holds on to my past experiences, the old stories, socialization, things we've learned from our culture, from the patriarchy, from capitalism, about our worth, our value, productivity. Right, all of that is encoded in our brains and in our bodies. There's a lot of science. I'm a scientist and a nerd above all. I'm going to push my imaginary glasses back on my nose. The science shows us that our old thoughts get encoded not just in our neural networks, but in our bodies, right? There's the famous book by Gabor Mate, The Body Keeps the Score, in which the science is laid out so beautifully. Highly recommend that book. I think I threw it across the room the first time I read it because I was so identified with it. So I believe that if we are to live intentional lives, to heal ourselves, to free ourselves from our conditioning, from our old patterns of thinking, to create new patterns for our life moving forward, we need to get in touch with those old cassette tapes. Right? And not just the cognition, not just the thought, but to learn how to deeply feel it in our bodies, knowing that feeling your feelings can suck. There's no other way to put it. I'm not a BSer. I'm a New Yorker. It can be really, really challenging and uncomfortable at first to feel all of your feelings. And the beauty of feeling all the challenging feelings is that it opens you up to this world of feeling your beautiful feelings, right? Because there is no darkness without the light. There is no yin without the yang. This is life. We need both sides of it, both energies. And if you want to feel the most amazing feelings of life, the work you get to do to bring that in is to get in touch with the discomfort, to get comfortable with the discomfort, to understand, believe, and know that uncertainty is a part of the human experience. It's not just right now in this COVID pandemic quarantine moment. And I am sitting here at the U.S. epicenter of it all on occupied Lenape territory, also known as Brooklyn, New York City. Life is uncertain. And the way to find peace and grounding in all of it is not by trying to think your way through, right? It's not by muscling. I want to invite you to tense your muscles. How does that feel? For me, it doesn't feel good. I want to release. I want to relax. I want to, and that energy, that letting go, that internal surrender comes when you're able to connect in with your feelings in a deep and real and powerful way, and to accept your feelings for what they are without wanting to change them. Now, if you've been listening to my podcast, the Feminist Wellness Podcast, you know that I teach a thought work protocol. So this protocol is a science-based, super nerdy way to change the way you feel, by changing your thoughts about the neutral circumstances that make up this life, by understanding that nothing in life is inherently good or bad, meaning you couldn't get 100% of people on the planet to agree with you. And there's some morality caveats, but stay with me with this thought exercise. It's an exercise, my angels. It's a tool to use. And within this framework, we understand that our experience of life is literally created by our thoughts about it. And so whatever habitual thoughts you have that were taught to you by your parents, your family, society, culture, once again, I'm going to call out patriarchy, capitalism, right? All the systems of oppression and systems like our families of origin. There are lessons that get encoded within us that create feelings. Feelings meaning a sensation, a vibration in your body, right? The feeling of sad, or the feeling of I'm so excited. And I'm such a Leo. I'm often very excited. And those feelings can get really muddied and murky when you're living in codependency and perfectionism, meaning your focus in your life is external. It's on the world outside of you and checking to make sure everyone else is okay, because then you believe in your mind that if everyone else is okay, you can be okay. Are you okay? Are you okay? Everyone okay? If everyone's okay, then I hold on to that false sense of control. I talked all about control here on Instagram yesterday. I'll be uploading that to Instagram TV for you and onto my YouTube channel. So when we are engaging in that false sense of attempting to control the world, we believe that if other people behave differently, we can feel differently. And it's just not real. It's not true. Because the way you feel about any given moment is because of your thoughts. And you get to choose if you're going to stick with the habitual old thoughts, that old monkey mind cassette tape, right? My dad said I'm worthless. Mine didn't. It's an example. My dad's very nice, thank goodness. My mom said I am too fat. Yeah, that happened. Right? Whatever your thoughts are, those create your feelings, those sensations in your body. So you can pick the old one and keep hitting play and keep hitting play and keep hitting play and keep hitting play. Or you can get in touch. Let's say the thought is, he didn't text me back. And you feel into your body and you feel disappointed. And it feels like, let me call up disappointment. Oh, I just felt my shoulders go forward. My chin kind of fell a little bit. I probably got some really delicious rolls. And I just feel this gray, murkiness in my gut, disappointed. And it feels kind of heavy and kind of, my whole body just wants to collapse. Disappointed. Yeah, it doesn't feel great. But feeling it is vital. You get to feel your feelings in their depth, to be able to name them, to know them, to experience the felt sensation of all of the challenging emotions. So you can come to recognize the action that you take when you're feeling that feeling and the result that your action creates for you in your life. Understanding that you can't create anything for anyone else, right? You can't create a thought or a feeling for anyone else. That's each of our jobs as individuals. We can be interconnected, right? Interdependence is my goal for you, my love. Like that's what I dream of the most for you, a shift from codependent to interdependent. And managing your own mind is your job as an adult. And when your goal is to manage your mind, is to show up, to understand what you are creating for you, feeling your feelings is key. One of the things folks new to working with the thought work protocol really want to do, and folks who don't realize that your thoughts create your feelings, so many of us, let me just say that, right? This is very, very common on the planet. We want to create a new feeling like out of nowhere, as though that were possible, right? And what we do is we do a cover-up job. Like we slap a Band-Aid on it, right? We slap a mantra on it. We pretend that by faking it or like being in positive vibes only, like that could be real. Now, I'm a huge fan of gratitude. I'm a huge fan of positivity. Like if you've ever listened to my work or you've met me, you've seen my videos, I love positivity. I'm like a Pollyanna positive kind of gal. And I don't use fake positivity as a cover-up job for feeling like crap. If I feel garbagey, I let myself feel garbagey. I let myself feel angry, disappointed, frustrated, worried, scared. I let myself feel it all. I support myself. I encourage myself to feel it all so I can process it somatically all of the way through my body. Because if not, my love, if you try to jump over it and put that BS positivity on top of it, if you try to buffer against your feelings, so if you're new to my work, buffering means doing anything that we do with the goal of covering up a feeling. So that could be eating, shopping, drinking, substance use, exercise, sex, scrolling the internet mindlessly, right? Like, have you ever found yourself just going like this with your thumb on your Instagram? You kind of don't know what you're doing or why. You may be buffering, attempting to like put some space between yourself and your feelings, as though that could make the feeling go away. But it can't. It never can. It never will, because your feelings are true and real and live within you. I want to bring up, just to help you see what processing your feelings looks like. Have you ever been so upset that you just start crying? And you just like cry, and then you hit this moment where you've like cried it all out. It's just like gone from your body, right? Like it's just literally gone. So that's what I'm talking about when I talk about processing your feelings, right? I'm talking about that moment of getting it all the way through. So it's not stuck in your body. Right? So it's not wreaking havoc. I mean, I can nerd it out hard, y'all. I hope you've got your pocket protector firmly in place. I mean, there's NIH studies where they've evidenced that childhood trauma, childhood stress, and particularly the ACEs study, which is the Adverse Childhood Experience study, shows us with science that challenging experiences, we'll put it that way, living in chaos, trauma, stress as a child has physiologic experiences in our body. It leads to physiologic changes. I see a question. I see your question. What's the first step to allowing that to happen? I will be with you in 1 second, my beauty. There are studies that show that when our feelings stay stuck in our body, they increase our risk of things like autoimmunity. So Hashimoto's, degenerative joint diseases, rheumatoid arthritis, ankylosing spondylitis, which is a terrible condition, on and on. right? It actually literally changes our physiology for the negative. It hurts our physiology. And so what's really important is to feel into those feelings. And so the first step into allowing that to happen is to remember the framework of the 3 A's: awareness, acceptance, action. If you are jumping to action, whether that is like, tomorrow I'm going to do this new gym routine, without asking yourself why you're not doing it already. New Year's resolution, anyone? If that jumping to action is like trying to fake it energetically, fake it with your emotions until you make it. I don't even know what that means. Whatever you are doing to jump to action, I want to invite you to pause, because when you attempt to jump to action, you're likely to fall flat on your sweet little face, because eventually it'll catch up with you. The truth of your emotions will catch up to you, and it becomes untenable. So when we are talking about feeling your feelings, the first step is awareness. So it is deciding that you are going to open your energetic field, you're going to open your heart, you're going to open your mind to feeling your feelings. And it starts with that decision. But it really does, right? Because you're feeding that into your psychology, into your cognition, and into your body. That decision, I am going to start feeling my feelings. And then you wait and you watch. You bring your attention into your body, not just your brain. And you check in with your body to ask, what is that? What am I feeling in this moment? So let's say a friend calls and that friend has a tendency to catastrophize. And so, which means like find the negative, find the catastrophe in anything. And this is a great moment for catastrophizers because, pandemic. So in that moment, the catastrophizer calls and you answer. And as you're answering, so your belly just drops. And you feel your throat like getting tight, and maybe your neck starts getting a little sore, and you're like, oh, hey girl, what's up? But like your body is starting to send you messages, right? Your body is starting to let you know this was not a great choice, right? Like this was not a choice that's in service of me. So you get to feel into that, and you get to ask your body, like, what's up? What is this? Is this anxiety? Is this worry? Is this fear? Is this just discomfort? Right? Is this discomfort? And you get to make a choice as an adult if you want to feel into it more, if you want to sit with it, and you get to check in with yourself, with your mind, body, and spirit to ask yourself what your capacity is. If you have a trauma history, then maybe you don't sit with it, right? Titration is one of the most important things here. And by titration, I mean you add just a drop at a time. Just another little drop of sensation, another drop of feeling your feelings, another little drop of getting in touch with yourself. Because when you have a history of trauma or lots of stress, adverse childhood experiences, chaos, something called your window of tolerance may be very small. So I like to think of it like, if you had a glass, right, and it was filled almost to the brim with water. If you take another full cup of water and pour it in there, it's going to pour over and like flood your desk, right? And so our bodies have a set, it's not set in that it's changeable, right? But in each day, you have a window of tolerance, just how much your mammal, your physiology can tolerate before it sends you into a trauma response, into sympathetic activation, into freak out, into dissociation, which is that dorsal ventral immobilization place. And so you get to learn this about yourself and what you want, what you need, what your capacity is, and what your physiologic capacity is at any time. And then you get to ask yourself, but really get in touch with yourself. And I do this through self-talk. I talk to myself out loud and in my head literally all day. Good thing I work from home when it's non-COVID times, and I can just walk around the house being like, well, Vic, how do you think? Well, Vic, what do you feel about that, right? But I literally will just ask myself, like, what's my window of tolerance today? Like, how are we? What's going on in there? Like, did you sleep well, sweet baby? Like, do you feel okay today? Are you stressed out about that thing yesterday? Are you future tripping about that thing next week? Like, is that eating away at you, right? Is that taking up space in your mind, body, spirit? And I will try to soothe that sweet part of me that needs sweetness, that needs love, that needs care, that needs my attention, right? So that I can widen my window of tolerance just a little bit, just a little bit, just a little bit. This week's podcast, Feminist Wellness Podcast episode, was about Glimmers, which I won't go into more detail about here. I posted on social media, on Instagram and Facebook about it. And again, it's episode 62 of the Feminist Wellness Podcast is all about glimmers, but I will talk about it quickly because I am such a nerd for polyvagal theory and how we can use it to advance our wellness. And so glimmers are those things that bring you into ventral vagal. Ventral vagal is the safe and secure, social, connected part. It's where I'm at right now. A little bit before I hit that go live button, I felt a little bit of sympathetic innervation. Right? A little bit of adrenaline, just a little bit like, oh, nerves. I'm about to get vulnerable. I'm about to stare into a little camera and talk to the world. It's normal and fine and okay to feel that. You just get to get into real contact, real loving contact with yourself, your capacity, right? How much of that sympathetic innervation or that dorsal shutdown your body can take, right? What is your window of tolerance for feeling these different feelings? Because the goal is never to throw ourselves into like a panic attack or into full dissociation, like, mon Dieu, right? Like, please, baby, don't do that to you. You are too tender and sweet and important and perfect and amazing. And I mean that. I love you. Be nice to you. I mean, I think one of the, if you were to ask like what is one of the top characteristics I see in all of my life coaching clients who come to me to work on codependency, perfectionism, self-doubt, the main core thing is not valuing themselves, not thinking they're worthy of love, and thus being quite mean to themselves, having a lot of challenges making decisions, right? Making decisions and sticking to them because it's challenging to value yourself. And so you don't ask for the help you need. You may have that like rugged individualism, like I have to do everything kind of energy. These things are really common, my sweet one. And the more you talk to yourself like the sweet, tender, loving baby you are, I think the better life is. So again, the work here is to feel the challenging emotions, to give the challenging emotions and the ones that feel amazing, to give your really harsh thoughts about yourself and your ones that you are amazing, to give it all equal airtime, which is another episode, I've done 3 so far special COVID support bonus episodes of the Feminist Wellness Podcast, and that was the 3rd one that came out last week, I think. What is time, my babies? No, but really, like, what even is time? But I talk about this concept of equal airtime, which means to me, just giving it all the space it needs. So if there's a part of your brain saying, resting again, you're being so lazy, you can lovingly say to that part of your brain, remembering that's a cognition, that's an old cassette tape in the player, right? That is your monkey mind. Someone in your life taught you that resting is negative, right? Resting is not a good thing to do. You need to go, 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 hustle, 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 be productive, make, do, prove your worth. That makes me sad. But that was part of my brain too, right? So when you hear that voice, our goal, the work I do, the work I teach my clients is not to attempt to shut it down. It doesn't work. As a scientist, it doesn't work. It's not how brains work. It's not how neurology, neuroscience works, right? You are likely to then shunt yourself once again, either into that sympathetic place because you are not connecting in with yourself and you might make yourself feel more anxious as you negate your own truth, or it may take you into that withdrawn place that like, oh, okay, yeah, so I'm just being negative, and like now I'm judging myself for being negative. I'm judging myself for resting, right? And it just continues that spiral of negativity, right? That spiral of being mean to yourself. So instead, I look at that part of my brain that's saying, seriously, you're resting? You could be doing an Instagram live. You could be making more content. You could be cleaning the whatever, because life always requires more cleaning. That's how life works, right? There's always more dishes. There's always more laundry. Instead of trying to shut that part of my brain or the feelings that are associated, right, with that down, I don't shut it down. I say, yes, my love, I hear you. I hear you that you're scared that if I take the time to rest, if I take the time to relax, if I take the time to attend to myself, then that means I'm lazy. I hear you that you're worried about that. Okay. Thank you for sharing your opinion. I appreciate it so much. And this current adult version of me would like to tell you that it doesn't make me lazy. I don't believe that anymore. I used to. I've heard that cassette tape before. I've heard it over and over and over again, and I no longer choose to believe that the hustle is what's most important, that being productive is what's most important. Thank you, though. I love you, beautiful protector part. Thank you for trying to keep me safe. I also want to point out to you, beautiful protector part, that I did a whole sink full of dishes. Not to justify, right? Because you don't have to explain it, but you do get to give it equal airtime in your brain. When your brain says you're being lazy if you're resting, right? Like you haven't done the COVID closet deep clean out, you get to like get real and connect in with the facts. And the fact may be that you have done all these other really beautiful, really amazing things to take care of yourself. So what it comes back to, and I'll say it once again, is not pushing away the negative, the challenging thoughts or feels. It's about inviting them in, having tea with them, sitting with them. There's the old Buddhist story, having tea with Mara. I'll invite you to look that one up. It's beautiful, right? But saying yes to feeling all the feels, knowing that we need that yin and yang, we need that balance. And what none of us need today or any day is to feel more shut down, more negated, more quieted, more pushed aside. All of our tender parts, our inner children, our inner adolescent, every part of us, those protectors, the inner clown, it all wants and needs its time in the light, right? It's time in the sunshine, right? And again, in codependency, this thing that happens is it's like that there's a spotlight on your head and you're constantly checking in to make sure everyone else is okay so you can feel okay. And what you get to do is turn it around, right? Like turn that spotlight around and put it right squarely on you, which means giving all of your parts, all of those voices equal airtime. It doesn't mean you need to believe them, right? So if there's that part of you that says, for your own protection, if you're not hustling and producing and being good and making the things, I'm going to call you lazy and I'm going to be mean to you. You don't have to believe it, right? It's just a set of thoughts. It's just a cassette tape playing in your mind. It's not gospel. It's not the truth. It's just an old thought. And you get to recognize it as such and to remember that that old cassette tape is only real in your mind right now if you press play, if you continue to listen to that old song, right? So meet it with love, befriend it, attend to it, and invite it to take a seat. That's okay. You're not needed right now. Thank you. Yeah. And through that process, feeling all of the feelings, never trying to leapfrog over them, never trying to emotionally bypass them, spiritually bypass them, but instead sink into them. All right, my beauties, I'm going to take a look at the questions. Misty Star asks, what's your podcast? It's called Feminist Wellness. It's on all of the things. So it's on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Stitcher, Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio. It's everywhere. And it's free. And it comes out every week because I love you. Someone writes, I get angry at myself because I tell my mom I had a lazy weekend after I just told her earlier in the day all the things I did accomplish. Yeah, I hear that. I hear that it can feel really challenging to hold that duality, right? That you can have moments in which you're being lazy. Maybe we can reframe that as resting. And there's moments when we're accomplishing, we're getting things done, right? And you can be both. Like that's the crux of this framework of giving all your feelings equal airtime, right? Just owning it, being real with yourself, which is all I ever want for you, my love, right? Being real with the fact that like you can be many things. You don't have to just be one thing in any given moment. Yeah, I hope that that's helpful. All right, let me see what other questions. And if you do have questions, just go ahead and type them into the little chat box. Someone writes, I know this is so random, but I love your voice. It's so calming. Thank you. I appreciate that. All right. Can dissociation stop all that? Even though it's a defense mechanism to protect us, wouldn't it harm us? So does dissociation harm us? So yes, in the moment, dissociation is protective, right? It is that dorsal shutdown. So your vagus nerve innervates or gives nerve function to your whole body. And it has two branches. Sympathetic, which is fight or flight, stress, freak out, panic. A lion is coming to eat my face. And then the other branch is parasympathetic. That then has two branches. Ventral vagal, which is the front body, and ventral vagal is the place where we feel like what you feel with your front body. Safe, social, connected. You can see smiles. You can see little crow's feet that mean that someone's giving you an earnest smile. While we're on the topic, because I'm such a polyvagal nerd, I want for a second here, feel into your body. Let's take a deep breath. Feel into these two smiles. That feels nice, I hope, unless you hate my face and then it feels terrible. And why are you watching my live? But hopefully that feels really nice versus this smile. Right? Doesn't that kind of put you on edge? When someone smiles, there's a woman in my building who like smiles like that, like, and it just like physiologically my body's like, oh, I do not trust that smile. And that's the vagus nerve, right? So the ventral vagus, that activation is what lets us know if someone is earnest, is for realsies, is showing up with love and care to be safe and social and connected. And then dorsal ventral is the back body. And so what helps me to remember that is the dorsal fin on a shark. Oh, that's a sign of things being not okay, my love. If you see a dorsal fin while you're swimming in the water, I grew up not that far from Cape Cod where Jaws took place. I do not like that sign at all. That is very bad. I also think because it's dorsal is your back body, it's like your back is up against the cave wall, right? So back in cave human days, which is when the vagus system, the vagus nerve system comes from, because it's evolutionarily an ancient part of our humanity, that dorsal, we were living in caves. I mean, the cool kids were living in caves. Most of us were living in caves. But your back body is up against the wall. And so the dorsal ventral, dorsal vagus, you goose. So the dorsal part is the part that is immobilization. So this is a possum playing possum. Your back's against the wall. You're immobilized. You're frozen, dissociated. Depression carries a lot of dorsal ventral. Why does my brain keep saying dorsal ventral? Those are very different things. Brains. Fridays, am I right? So the dorsal portion of your vagus nerve is what fires when you have no other options. when your back is like against the wall and you're like, I can't anymore. This comes up a lot in codependency and perfectionism when we are pushing ourselves beyond our capacities, when we're not having healthy boundaries, when we're saying yes when we mean no. When someone's like, oh, come over and help me like move this heavy furniture. And you're like, oh my God, I don't want to, but I don't want him to think I'm rude or like an ingrate because he helped me that time. But like I hurt my back and I don't want to like move a heavy armoire. But what will he think of me if I just say no? Sure, Mike, I'll see you at 6. Withdrawn, immobilized. I feel like a turtle when I feel into it. It's like a turtle going back into their shell, like that, like, oh, leave me alone energy. That's that dorsal vagal. I totally lost track of why I went into this, but there it is. So those 3 states create a lot of sensations in our body. And then we have a cognitive experience, right? So you feel a little bit of anxiety and you feel that adrenaline that starts to run through your body when you're in sympathetic. And that can then trigger you to have thoughts about it. So you have a thought, a cognition, in which you try to understand or react to the feeling in your body, that sensation, that chemical sensation, that primal mammalian sensation in your body of your vagus nerve getting activated in one direction or another. And so then you have a thought about it. And that thought can sound like, oh, wow, okay, I think I'm getting anxious. Okay, right? And your brain starts to freeze up a little bit because cognition is not sharp when you're in sympathetic because you're supposed to be either fighting a lion or running from one. And so you then start to have that cognition, that thought, something's wrong, something's bad, something's wrong, something's bad. And then that creates that feeling of worry, fear, panic. And that moves down through your body, right? So there's the upward flush from your vagus nerve into your brain. That's about 80% of the human experience, is the movement of chemicals up from your body into your brain, which, talk about the importance of getting in touch with your felt sensation in your body. It's 80% of your human experience. But we think in this culture, in the US, that our brains are the jam. And like, I love my brain. We are very good friends at this point. But I really think that living with intention comes from the gut, comes from the body, comes from being deeply and profoundly in touch with the felt sensation of being you. It's 80% of your lived experience, right? So we get in touch with that feeling in our body. We recognize the cognition, the thought we're having in response, which then creates that downward chemical flow that creates a feeling in response to your thought. And that's where you can intervene, right? We can heal, we can learn to regulate our nervous system, right? To widen our window of tolerance. Absolutely. We can use orienting exercises, grounding exercises, and I have a set of free exercises and meditations on my website. If you go to victoriaalbina.com, right on the homepage, there's a little box you can put your email in and you'll get a set of meditations, including a nervous system regulating orienting experience, a boundary setting meditation, an inner child meditation, and some other stuff I just can't remember. You'll get all of that sent to your email for free because I love you. So we can learn to regulate our nervous systems to widen slowly. Again, this is a slow and steady process. Don't try to stretch your nervous system. It's going to bounce back and it's not going to be great. This is when people freak out and lose it. And we go slowly and gently titrating that experience. But we can learn to regulate our nervous system to widen the window of tolerance. And by learning to feel our feelings in our body and to process them all the way through, right? So you get to that point at the end of the cry where you're like, all right, cool, cried it all out. Great, who wants gluten-free pizza? I mean, I do. Anybody else? It's Friday, it's pizza day. So we can learn how to really engage in that practice by getting into our bodies. So we can then ask, what is the thought that's creating this feeling this secondary sensation in my body that may feel terrible, right? May feel uncomfortable. We feel into that discomfort. We get comfortable with discomfort. I'm a huge fan of meditation. I think it's really important. It must be titrated for folks with a trauma history, adverse childhood experiences, right? Stress, chaos in childhood. It's not a thing to just jump into and expect your body to go with, right? It's slow and steady with the mindfulness, with paying attention to your bodily sensations. And the more we learn how to get in touch with those sensations, we can ask, what's the thought creating it? And then what action do I take when I'm feeling this feeling in my body? And what result do I create in my own life? Because you are creating results every minute of every day for you. From your feelings, right? So you're either staying in disappointment, you're complaining about your disappointment, you are not having healthy boundaries, or you are, right? Like you are making results for your life every moment of your life. And you get a choice, right? You get a choice as to what you are going to think, feel, the action you'll take, and the result you will create energetically for yourself each and every time. So I think it behooves us to really take the time to recognize our old stories, those old cognitions, those old thoughts in our heads, and to learn to feel into our human bodies, to get really comfortable with our bodies and knowing what our sensations are. And so I encourage folks to do a number of things. One, describe that feeling when you're having a feeling in your body, to describe it like you were going to your healthcare provider. Right? Like I think most of us are used to being like, listen, so it hurts in my wrist and it's like sharp. It's been going on for like 2 weeks. If I move it this way, it's worse. And then it radiates, right? And it's like this red hot sharpness. It's terrible. Help me out. Right? So we're used to describing physical sensations like pains, headaches, discomforts, belly aches, right? Like, oh, the belly ache's kind of just like all over and it feels kind of like sharp. It's probably gas. And right, like we can describe those things often with more facility than we can our feelings, because we've been trained to do that since we're little, right? Like if you have a bellyache and you have some kind of caregiver in your life, whether it's a clinician or the school nurse or a parent who can say to you like, baby, what are you feeling, right? So we get used to that, how to describe those physical experiences, and we get to then turn that lens inward and ask what sad feels like. For me, it's heavy and blue. It lives in my belly and behind my eyes. My throat chakra gets tight. It's like a tightness when I'm like need a good cry. And I hope you all have had a good COVID cry if you need one. I think they are very important. Angry feels like, oh, like red hot, like, oh, like it's tightness, it's redness, like my face is getting red, right? Like anger is like this red, tight, like I'm leaning forward, and that's part of polyvagal theory too. Our bodies take different stances without our even noticing as different parts of our systems get activated. So that sympathetic, that anger, right, makes me lean forward into it. So the more you can get used to naming it and feeling it, right? And Dedicated Educators writes in, so true, disappointment has a physical feeling for me. It's a sharp pain in my chest. Yeah, baby. I feel you on that one. Like, ugh, right? So being able to discern what's going on in your physical body can sometimes be the window into our brains, which once again, in a culture that for all of the reasons really prioritizes and gives primacy to cognition, to logic, to like all those left brain activities that teaches us that what matters is staying in our brains, right? Like that is the most important thing, that, think your way through. I'm not buying it. Feel your way through, my angel. Feel into it. Feel into your body. Recognize the innate and powerful wisdom that lives within your physiology. Connect in deeply and know that you're resourced. Like, you are so resourced within your body. Your body is your ally. And the more you can really relate to your physiology, your feelings, your felt experience as more beautiful information, right? And drop this language of like negative emotions. Though I use it in my teaching sometimes just because it's colloquial, like it's quick and it's an easy sort of, it's just easily understood and read in our culture. But at my core, I don't believe in negative emotions. I think all emotions are amazing and beautiful and such gifts and teachers. We get to learn how to learn from them because it's taught out of us as children, right? We are taught not to be in alignment with our sensations, like primal sensations, like hunger, thirst, has to go to the bathroom, right? Because you have to raise your hand in kindergarten and say, I has to go to bathroom, and wait till a grown-up like calls on you, or like someone can take you. You have to eat on someone else's schedule. You can't drink in the classroom, you know? So we get out of touch with our human bodies and our primal physical sensations. It's not surprising, particularly if you grew up with codependency, perfectionism, judgment, self-doubt, in a household where alcohol or substances were being used, right? In a household where there was chaos or stress. It is perfectly normal and human, and yeah, a protector, right? Your beautiful body protects you. And so it kept you from feeling your feelings. And you get to meet that part with so much love and say, thank you. Thank you, you sweet, sweet thing, for keeping me from feeling all those feelings that my child self just couldn't handle because, you know, she was a children's. And so she couldn't handle it because she's not supposed to. She doesn't know how to drive a car or send an email because she can't even write so goodly because she's a children's. And she can't handle the complexity of these feelings because, like, she's not supposed to be able to. Like, that is not developmentally appropriate for a child to be living with chaos or stress, with fighting with parents, with abuse, with so much of what so many of us live with. And so if you take away one thing from this, my love, it is to be gentle, loving, and kind with yourself, to give your inner child so much love, to thank the part of you that tells you to freak the F out right now, right? Or tells you that something is horrible, because it's a gift. It's love. That is the purest self-love. Like, seriously. So it's so much self-love. Like, I have had panic attacks, so I get to say this. I experienced like when I used to have panic attacks and I look back on those days, that was self-love. That was my inner child being like, girl, there's a lion. Run, freak out, freak out. But it was like my ex calling, or like someone I was dating being like, hey, we need to have a talk, or my boss calling me into the office, or getting a bad grade. Oh, God, that used to slay me because perfectionism, right? But now, both in hindsight and for my present self, I know that all of that is just love. From my beautiful body to my beautiful brain, my beautiful spirit, my beautiful energy field. Like, it's all just self-love. And there's a problem with the translation. Like, I think that's what it is, right? It's your body screaming, I love you so much. Oh my God, run. And it gets lost in translation. And your adult brain experiences that screaming of I love you, run, as panic attack. Or as, depression and throw yourself on the floor, or as frustration, or as worry, right? Yeah. So my beauties, this has been a delight. Thank you for joining me. Please do check out my podcast. It's called Feminist Wellness. It's free on all of the things. I did a webinar last night called Overcoming Codependency. You can grab the link in my bio. Tons of more people wanted to come to that webinar than could. So I decided to do another one, because one of the things that's really getting me through right now is being of service. So I'll be doing another webinar live, free, on Monday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'll put a post up and a story up. I'll do all the things so that you know how to find it, and I'll put a link in my bio, and that will be about overcoming perfectionism. Because, like, wow, that one's a kick in the privates. That is so exhausting. Attempting to be perfect all the time, like, whoa. So I'll be talking all about that and some simple, loving steps you can take to start showing yourself that another way is possible. And I'm really excited about it. I also have an upcoming masterclass. It is almost full. It's a 6-month online coaching course all about overcoming codependency. I won't spend more of your time talking about it. I just want to make sure you know about it. There's a link in the bio, link in my bio, to listen more about it, learn more about it, and to learn more about it. So do go ahead, check that out. Dedicated educators, when you write, I need that episode stat. Which one do you mean? So I can tell you about it. So yeah, there's so many opportunities. I'm here. I'm showing up. I love you. Make sure that you're watching my stories because I put a lot of stuff in there for you. For example, mark your calendars. Tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, I got that right, I'll be going live with the amazing psychotherapist Emily Roberts. She's a fellow New Yorker here, and we're going to be talking tomorrow about anxiety. That's going to be amazing. It's over on her channel, which is Guidance Girl M. Guidance Girl EM, for short for Emily. So make sure you go to there. I'll just type that in at Guidance Girl M tomorrow at 11 a.m. So did I post that? Who knows? I tried. What are you gonna do? So that, and then dedicated educators. Yes, there it goes, at Guidance Girl M. Talking with her tomorrow at 11 a.m. And then on Sunday morning, I'll be going live with the amazing at Jessa Blades, Jessa. Why don't you type if you're gonna talk, little sweet potato? Do you see how nice I talk to myself? This took years to get me here, but this is what I want for you, right? Like, why not call yourself a sweet, tender ravioli? Like, why would you not do that? You're just a sweet little tender thing. But anyway, so I'm going live with Jessa Blades on Sunday. That's going to be also super duper interesting. So we're going to be talking about the nervous system, the gut. She's a skin and beauty expert. So it's going to be a really interesting conversation as we talk about skin and beauty and boundaries. Right, because your skin is a reflection of your gut health. Your gut health is a reflection of your boundaries. It all ties together beautifully. We're going to put a bow on it for you. And then I'll be going live most days next week. So here we are. So much to learn. And if there's a topic that you'd like me to cover, questions you have for me, DM me, holler at me. I no longer, like 10 years ago, I offered things I don't mean. I don't do that anymore. So I'm telling you, if there's a topic you want me to talk about, if there's something you want me to share, something you want to learn, tell me about it. Ask me about it. And if it feels aligned, I'll talk about it. So there you go. So beautiful. Check out my link in bio. Check out my stories. There's lots of opportunities to hear me talk more. I'm really grateful that you took the time to come on over today to learn about the importance of feeling your feelings, to hear some nerdiness about the polyvagal theory, which I couldn't not talk about if I tried, because it's so fascinating. If you want to learn more about polyvagal, that is episode 61 of the Feminist Wellness Podcast, which is my podcast. Go over to Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your shows. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. It helps folks to find the podcast, and it's free. It's my offering to the world. So I want everyone to find it. And that's it. It has been a delight. This has been so lovely. I love talking to yous, and I love hearing from you. So holler at me, send me a DM, be in touch, and I'll talk to you soon. Be well, my sweet angels. Go feel your feelings. It's nice.